laws of gravity, electromagnetism, nuclear force.
I love this.
We learn about this
stuff.
in physics. When it comes to what we find attractive,
You have to learn from the lessons of your past and break the pattern.
then your mind goes into, let me try to find out what's wrong with him. Is he a cheater? Is he a this? Is he that? And then we go on this witch hunt.
Welcome to the Daddy Academy, everybody. We have a very fun episode for you guys today. I'm here with relationship expert Haleh Gianni, founder of ALO. ALO. How's it going?
Good.
Welcome to New York City.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Here from the 305.
Yes, from 305.
305,
downtown Miami.
Which I hear is a nightmare dating scene.
Well,
How do you feel about it?
it's all about perspective, right?
Right,
Nightmare
I
to
agree.
some, easy for others. But honestly, it's just like any other big city. It's the same
I think
thing.
so. I agree. I think people say New York City is the worst dating city in the world. I'm like, I very much disagree.
Yeah.
I actually think LA is the worst.
You think LA's
I think LA is the worst. I think I think they all have their own unique challenges. I think LA, it's like
Absolutely.
very superficial. People think they're way cooler than they are. Then New York's interesting because I think you get a lot of there's a good amount of people who are very real, right? But there's just so much abundance that people are never settling down. And then Miami's just like,
Miami's a transplant city now, too.
it's transplant city,
Right.
and it's people that go there. I like to call Miami, it's like a porno in real life. It's like, it's for men. For men who go there, it's like you have the most beautiful women in the world, and like these.
It's the illusion of choice, though.
Correct. Right.
Yeah. So it's like walking into a store and it's your first time, right? And
Right.
It's like, oh my God, everything looks great. And then you go beyond the surface and you're like, okay, now the pool like really narrows down.
Totally. No.
So initially it gives you like that jolt of like, whoa, like there's so many options here.
Right. I think, is your audience or who you speak to, is it mostly men or women? What do you kind of notice?
So it's interesting. When I got into the field of relationship, it started as mostly men.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was actually at work. I was in tech and I noticed like a lot of guys would come in and they were just a little disoriented, a little unhappy, and we get to talk, and then this was way before I even went into this field.
Sure.
So relationships tend to affect men a lot more than women, but we don't talk about it.
Yeah, okay. This is a good perspective because my audience is like all women. Yeah, talk more about what do you notice about men in the dating space?
Yeah, so, this goes just generally for both.
Right.
Relationships are so important, right? They impact every aspect of one's life.
Totally.
At work, at home, at school, whatever you do. If you're not happy in your heart, there's a sense of unsettlement that kicks in and you just don't, you're just circling around trying to feed that craving.
Right.
So what I notice with men, because they don't necessarily speak up about their emotions or seek any type of help, we're just talking generally, right? Because there's so many different people. It kind of just becomes like something they sweep under the rug, right? Women are more forth-seeking and forthcoming.
They are, absolutely.
They want to know, they want to learn. I mean, there's a difference between why we call it Mother Earth, Mother Nature.
And men have a lot of pride. Like if I don't want to seek help, like because I don't need help.
Right.
You need the help.
Right. But what I've noticed is that they reach out to me because they like that private engagement, that conversation. So they have a safe environment where they don't feel judged, they don't feel less than, they don't feel broken.
Also, there's probably something to a man reaching out to a woman rather than a guy reaching out to another man, where it's like, oh, I'm almost saying that this man is more manly than me because he knows it, where having that feminine energy to the conversation is probably a lot more comforting for a guy.
Yeah, we balance each other out,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
It's a yin and yang. Women listen to you, men listen to me, and then it's a balance that needs to be. And most importantly, I think it's that judgment, right? There's a lot of subjective opinion that gets thrown around.
Right.
And, when we get to actually help people feel seen, feel heard and understood and honored, we all individually end up functioning better.
Right.
And that's kind of just where I transitioned into actually being a full-time relationship scientist, I call it, because I approach it from a science perspective.
Cool. Let's talk about that a little bit more then. What's sort of like your philosophy, I guess would be sort of like the way to describe it.
Right, right. So if you think about our personalities, so we have our psychology, our upbringing, our culture, our past, and then there's another angle to us, which is actually in your DNA, right? Your predisposition to certain behavior.
Sure.
Some people are more active, some are more passive, some people are more masculine, some are more feminine.
Totally.
It has nothing to do with your gender identity or
both
sexuality.
men and women.
Absolutely.
I think we all have both.
Yeah, we all have both.
We all have both.
We have to function with both. And it's not a learned behavior. That's something that's innately available to us.
Yeah.
Right? Some of us need to lead, and that's not because we learned it. It's because it's innately in us. So I focus on individual traits that are in your, physical being. So that science is that I, specialize in, I focus on, actually is able to separate your personality from your physical traits and knows what we actually need to feed in you to show up authentically.
So helping people sort of understand where they sit personality-wise, masculine, feminine, dynamic-wise, and helping them sort of determine the perfect type of person for themselves or how they should be showing up.
Both. It's both. If you don't show up, when people say be you,
right?
It's such a cliche advice, right? But really, the reality, what does that even mean?
What does that mean?
Right? What does that mean? And I've seen that in our coaching, engagements, that a lot of people have a hard time actually feeling that it's okay to be themselves, right?
Right.
And what does it mean? And some people go all the way on the other side of the spectrum where they actually neglect their responsibilities and, how they should show up. Like, it's like, oh, it's me, like it or leave it. And it's like, oh, no, we didn't mean go all the way. Like just know where that balance is.
There needs to be a level of self-awareness. And like, nobody, and I always say to people, like, nobody's perfect. Like, we all have flaws. We all have things we could work on.
Yeah.
And you need to be aware of what those things are. And even in a relationship, you need to be willing to somewhat accept in somebody else the flaws that you have, potentially too. It's like some people they're looking for somebody to fix all their flaws and their problems or people who are like more of like the self-sabotaging type. Well, okay, well, you can't handle me, then that's it.
Absolutely.
It's like well, then you're never gonna find somebody.
Right.
So you have to have that level of self-awareness and being able to learn about yourself and what's the perfect type of person for myself. And I think I notice a lot of people, they'll get in a bunch of long-term relationships with not the right types of people, and they've never actually experienced what it feels like to be with the type of person or the genre of person that's actually meant for them.
Yes.
So then most people out there are just lacking reference experience. So what I say to people is you want to get out on as many dates as you can that you could handle, because just messaging people you're not gonna understand the dynamic. And even if it's not going on dates, just being outwardly social with people, even more in a platonic way, you're gonna eventually meet somebody where you're like, oh, I really like the dynamic I feel like with this person. And when that's the case, even if it doesn't turn into anything long term, it's okay, well, I really liked that type of guy or that type of woman. Yeah. And then you have the reference experience to then try to manifest it essentially.
Sure.
And then you know what you're looking for a little bit more clearly when you're dating.
Sure. I want to touch on what you said.
Yeah.
I like the dynamic of this person with me.
Right.
That speaks to what I focus on in terms of the electromagnetic pulse that is present when two people are within arm's reach.
Yes. Okay. I like that. I like this.
Right?
Okay. Keep going.
So that's what magnetism is.
Science class.
Science. That's science. That's, because everything is in this third dimension that we live in is governed by laws. This is laws of gravity, electromagnetism, nuclear force.
I love this.
We learn about this in physics, but no one ever teaches us about how they show up in our behavior and in our relationship dynamics.
Sure.
Right? So there are people so let me pause and tell you this. So when it comes to what we find attractive, right? Because we are exposed to so many opinions and social media gives us that window, right?
Yep.
We tend to alter our understanding of attractiveness based on the popular belief.
Totally.
Okay?
Yep.
So if you find someone that's tall, dark, and handsome, for you ladies, as attractive, you may just look for that person through that lens, right? But you might be a room or across from the table with someone who's tall, dark, and handsome, but it doesn't create that magnetic pulse.
Totally.
And then your mind goes into, let me try to find out what's wrong with him. Is he a cheater? Is he a this? Is he da, da, da? And then we go on this witch hunt, trying to figure out like what is going on here.
Right.
Where really that electromagnetic pulse that probably would have been created with the guy who just passed across from you that you didn't deem attractive at all, you didn't turn your head.
Sure.
That magnetic connection would have been a lot higher with that person.
Right.
But your mind chose this guy, right?
But that's looking at conventional attractiveness.
Conventional. So we challenge that even in, you know, my teaching, my company, and how we address things. We want to challenge people and change the narrative, because as soon as you feel like that dynamic is off, you start to look for reasons, right? But knowing what that creates, I mean, there was a study done a long time ago. They went into a room and then they hooked up people and they said, well, first they interviewed them. So they asked the guys, what is your girl? What is your type? Your ideal, perfect, you know? And they described them physically, you know, this, you know, blonde, brunette, this, that, big, small. Everyone had something unique, right? They found those individuals, they invited them to this big event, and then they had these people hooked up to, like, you know, electrodes, and, like, you know, they were measuring their heart rate and their, you know, body temperature and things like that. They put those people in the room and they approached those individuals first, right? The ones that they had already pre-identified. They got them in the room and nothing was really happening internally. It was just the mind getting excited.
You've noticed that all the time. I mean, like, just because you find somebody attractive, you start talking to them and you're like, there's nothing here.
There's nothing.
There's nothing there.
Then the person that actually was electromagnetically more attractive to them would have created that pulsating draw, that thing that just
the conversational chemistry.
Right,
it's
that gets
the
your
natural
curiosity.
Is that what you would call it? Like the natural conversational chemistry you have with somebody?
Yeah, it's, you know, at first encounter, it creates a sense of curiosity, right?
Okay.
Like, ooh, this is different.
Yeah.
I don't know you. This is a different animal.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It kind of starts off like that. Then it goes into that connection. Then it goes into, like, I want to learn more. You're on the other side. From the other side, I don't know you that much, right?
I have sort of like another take to this, or something I want to hear your perspective on. I think a lot of people have I said earlier, like a genre of person or a type of person who they tend to be attracted to, a personality type that they tend to be attractive to. And sometimes that comes with some, like, bad traits that haven't worked for them in the past. Like, for example, like if I'm attracted to a certain personality type, but then maybe that comes with the person, these people all have a lot of trauma. And maybe something about that dynamic feels safe to me and is something that I tend to have that sort of electromagnetic pulse with, then how should you always trust that? So it's like the spark. Should you always trust the spark when you feel it? I feel like you should, and then it takes time to kind of feel it out, and over time you see if there's compatibility, and you keep note of those red flags. But I think this would be maybe an argument for that. It's like, do I trust that initial feeling all the time, and how much should I trust that feeling?
All right. First of all, I wouldn't say trust your feelings.
Okay.
Right, all the way through, right? You can to a certain degree.
Right.
Because compatibility, which you called out, has multiple pillars. All right? It isn't just that magnetic thing we're talking about. It's just one pillar.
Totally.
Right?
There's
more to it.
Yep.
Connection is one of them that actually comes from, like, there are reasons. It's like, think of like the doorways to your heart. You may have similar doorways, and when you're engaging with that person, you may feel like, ooh, we're getting closer.
Yeah.
Now your hearts are locked in.
Yes.
It's not a feeling, it's an action that happens.
Yeah.
And through that action, through that activity, you start to feel understood. You start to feel like you have sort of, in that aspect, similar interesting topics that you want to converse over, right?
Yeah.
Then there's another pillar, which is about your comfort. Do you have same level of lifestyle preferences?
Huge. Yeah.
It's huge, because if you trust the feeling, you might get disappointed when you walk into their living space, right? You walk into their space or car, they pick you up on a date and you're like, oh, but I had such strong feelings for you and your car is a mess, you know? But then it's like that, there's nothing wrong with that individual. It's just that is the lifestyle preferences. So when we're looking at matching and, you know, finding your ideal person, those things matter because they do play into every decision you make from that point on.
Yes.
Right? And then there are just other aspects to it too. So when I say don't trust your feelings, it's like that initial spark can be so mesmerizing and full of admiration and full of excitement. And you're going up to this like peak, right? And then as soon as you start to see these other pillars failing, the feelings drop because the disappointment starts to rise, and that creates a lot of...
The disappointment starts to rise.
You start to feel really confused, and then that's when people can make misjudgments or assumptions over things that, weren't really there.
So then how would you recommend people start to, like, how would you recommend vetting people to be with? Like, what's sort of like your philosophy there?
Yeah. So to answer this question, I wanted to kind of go into like the evolution of dating.
Okay, that's great. I love it. Let's do it.
Okay, all right. Because how we assess someone now is very different than how, obviously, you're an expert in this too. Like you know how it all kind of started, and how your parents and grandparents chose each other versus how we are looking
now.
for.
It's totally different.
So different.
Modern dating is, I say, so much different than 40, 50 years ago. Even just the societal pressures of influences of, well, you graduate high school and you get married. Right? So it's like a totally different world now.
Yeah. And when people are, single, they find themselves interested in exploring somebody else and looking for a partner. When it started back in the day, when you got out of school or, you came of an age that it was appropriate to look for a partner, you were looking for a partner simply through the lens of, is this someone I can build a life and a family with?
Yes.
Right? Is this my life partner?
Yep.
Well, with the sort of the technological evolutions and, modern day lifestyles and people, women being more independent, not necessarily needing a man to provide a home for, they didn't go from their father's home to a husband's house, they actually can be independent and self-sufficient. Things started to shift and change, right?
Totally.
Then let's just skip through and come to 2025, right? So here we are. We have so many different ways of meeting people. We have social media, we have dating apps, we have, all of the, the modalities that exist, and then we have in-person, real life type of stuff that happen. But now, when you're looking at someone who's single, they're not necessarily they may not be looking for a life partner.
Yeah.
The goals are different.
I think a lot of people don't even know what they're looking for.
They don't even know what they're looking for because, why do they not know what they're looking for? Because the options have expanded.
Yes.
Right?
Or back in the day, it's like, you married who was in your hometown.
Yes.
It's like, well, now it's like, well, now you might have some guy that DMs you who lives in Dubai.
Right.
And you live here, right? Like,
and you just want to do this, like, I see you when I see you type of rendezvous, right?
Right.
And that works for some people.
It's fine, yeah. If that's what you want, if that's what you know that you want.
Yeah, so the goals are different. And oftentimes I see people thinking that by just bringing up that question on a first date is enough to kind of filter out and vet it out. Well, where I hear people say, well, what are your intentions? Are you looking for this? I've heard personally, I've seen so many couples, I've officiated weddings myself around the world.
Cool.
I've seen couples that started with either side saying, oh, I don't believe in marriage, I don't want marriage, don't even bring that up. And then 6 months later, they're proposing and they're happily ever after, right? So that's not the vetting thing. It's just that everyone's kind of caught in this pool of not knowing what necessarily they want because of the current climate and what is going on. So to vet someone as a compatible partner, you really got to start with yourself.
Yes.
So instead of just like shooting your shots and just seeing what sticks, like what hits, you really got to just decide, do you want to meet the wrong people many times or the right person just a few times?
You have to learn from the lessons of your past and break the pattern.
Yes.
If things aren't working, you have to break that pattern, and whether you say God or the universe, it'll continue to send you those same types of lessons until you actively choose the scary option, which might be the unknown.
The unknown. And it might take a little longer.
Totally.
And you have to be okay with people raising an eyebrow. Why is this, why are you... But because we're so affected by opinions and we rally up everyone's approval,
of course,
when we meet someone, that has created so many sort of confusion and misconceptions around who's better and who's not, because everyone wants to chime in, right? And they may not necessarily know who you are at your core.
Right. It's so interesting. Love this. I love your perspective on this and the sort of like the science aspect.
Thank you.
What do you think, based off what you're seeing online, I know we're talking about like sort of like modern dating, what do you think is like some of the worst advice you hear from or see from people?
This whole concept of chemistry has been very diluted and thrown around too much. I'm not sure when I actually ask people, what do you think is chemistry?
You really can't, we can't really define it. Can you define it? Do you think you could define it? I always say I say we can't define it, so it's hard to you shouldn't be upset if you don't have it with somebody. I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not finding the person that I have the chemistry with. And it's like, well, I can't bottle that up and put it and sell it. So you just kind of have that sort of, you were talking about it earlier, you either have that sort of comfort or that conversational chemistry with somebody or you don't. And a lot of people get really down on themselves when they're not finding people that they have that with.
Right.
And it's like, you can't take that personally. Dating is something that people tend to take very personally, but it's really not personal. You should reflect on what's been going on and seeing if there's something that maybe you're doing, maybe not wrong, but that you could present yourself a little bit better or something like that.
Right.
But chemistry, it's an interesting topic.
Right. So how I define chemistry, it's like it goes back into that magnetism, right? We replace it with magnetism because it's that pulsating attraction. And you may feel it, and let me just kind of talk about you for a second.
Sure.
Let's analyze
All right,
Niko.
Let's go for it.
So when I talk about like the innate traits and all of that, they're visible to someone like me who's studied this. So I can on site know something about you without needing to know anything from like where you come from, who your parents are, where you grew up, or your personality traits and things like that. So you have a trait that we call an active disposition with. And you balance yourself in a very interesting way. So you have an active disposition with a negative electromagnetic charge, which is the ability to see what's not working very quickly. That's why you step into being part of the solution rather than perpetuating the problem.
Ooh, very good.
Okay?
I like that.
You also have this other side. So that part is your crusader. It's that knight in the shining armor. It wants to come in and just be like, let me protect you all. Let me clean out, this mess.
Good.
There's another part that's actually very sympathetic. It's a very healer aspect of you. It's the part of you that goes into that passive disposition and likes that R&R. And, when you're not on duty, you need to be, taken care of and fed and pampered.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure.
So you can go to, those two are very, like polarity-wise, very different. One needs one can be very approachable, very calm. The other one's very active and very missionary.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good read.
Yeah. So just one little tip of the, like the top layer of the cake. So when you are, let's say, at an event, let's say you're at a restaurant, you're dining with your friends, right? A female walks past you, okay? And you just may not even be paying attention, right? All of a sudden, there's this like, oh, there's a double take. Right? Because she carries something within her that is an opposite to what is innately available to you.
And you think that's something, that's not confidence. I think that's more of it's a double take. Energetic signature.
It's an energetic signature. It's literally built in within our nature, right? And that person may not be the person your mind decided that you were attracted to.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
But there is that physical thing. And notice like you could walk through, a coffee shop or a place, and there are some people that they will notice you just as you would notice them.
Yeah.
But it's not always, something we act on, right?
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah. So you can actually go both ways. You can actually be drawn to someone who's also a missionary, who's very goal-oriented, very much driven, and that you might find that admiration. But really behind the surface of what that person is doing for a living, there is that draw. You can also be attracted to someone who's more laid back and more of a sort of like that healer side as well. So you have the ability to go both sides.
Yeah. That's a pretty good read. I think, I guess I'll sort of talk. I think because I do this sort of work where I'm helping people and talk to people, I naturally find myself in dynamics where I'm doing that. in my relationship, where now I'm sort of in a different headspace where, yeah, I need somebody who is like similar to me in that sort of like relaxed way where when I'm with them, I'm not working.
Yes.
Right. It's very like, so kind of like looking for a version of myself, maybe not someone who kind of does sort of this type of work and is empathetic in that sort of way, but someone who calms me, keeps me calm and chill when we're together. It's just like really light. Because I'm Mr. No drama.
Yeah.
Like there's no fighting, there's no nothing. It's like
because you're a fixer.
Right.
As soon as you see the problem, you're going to want to jump in and fix it.
Yes.
You don't want to keep marinating in it.
Exactly.
And it's important to, that's just, again, one pillar of it.
Yeah, but I think a lot of women do this too. I think a lot of women have this similar personality trait where they're trying to fix these guys who aren't, like, you can't fix.
The fixer, the ones that are innately fixers, because some women are just hands off. It's like, that doesn't work for them.
Right.
But the ones that are fixers, they should have the opportunity to actually exercise that part of their innate being, but it's
in a healthy way.
In a healthy way.
In a healthy way.
That's the key. It's where you channel your energy, right? Where do you put it? If you go pick up a wounded bird and then now you have a collection of wounded birds,
don't I know?
You just want to fix, that can be a problem because now you're losing energy. Now you go into this blame game and self-sabotage you spoke on earlier.
Yeah.
So
to my question earlier, if somebody, for whatever reason, energetically, is attracted to that type of person that maybe like there is that natural connection.
Yes.
But once you get into the compatibility side of things, you're like, oh, well, this is almost like my cope, not my perfect partner.
That happens.
I think a lot of people fall into that. They find a partner that kind of fits more of like the coping side of their personality.
Yeah.
But there obviously is an intense attraction. There's an intense connection.
The potential's there.
There is potential, yes. So maybe that's what it is. It's like, it's potential there, but this other person hasn't done the work to improve. So like when it comes to sort of like your energetic frequency and whatnot. Can people improve themselves in certain in these types of ways? Maybe not in a sense to be, well, could they be more magnetic in general, or the types of people who are there who there is that connection to? You can't really change that.
Yeah.
Do you follow me?
Of course. Yeah. So you said, can they improve? The key is, are they willing to?
Oh, of course. And most people aren't.
Receptivity is key in anything in life, right? You have to be receptive. You have to be able to self-edit, right? You have to be able to collect the feedback, right? That you get, right?
A lot of people go, I'm not like he's wrong or she's wrong. Like that's
like if you're the one that's constantly being ghosted on, like you gotta like look within.
There's probably something going on,
right?
There,
something going on. Or if you're complaining to your friends about the same old guys, the same old thing, something is happening.
Right.
And what we don't pay attention to as much as we should is that when you look outward and you're constantly looking for what's wrong with other people, it lowers your own frequency.
Totally.
Right?
Yes.
It keeps you down. So you're in that vibration
like
of attracting more
victim mindset type stuff as well.
And which is really different than somebody who chooses to be single for a little bit longer until, because it goes back into like, I'd rather meet the right person once than the wrong person multiple times.
Well, a lot of people have struggle being alone.
Right.
So they're looking, like I said, kind of they get into coping relationships where they're relationship hopping from person to person, and they're looking for somebody to fill a void.
Yeah.
And when really like, no, this is your, not, I guess issue would be the word, but like journey in life is to figure out, like, I would say like happiness is a choice, as in you need to figure out why you're not happy. You can't, somebody's not gonna come into your life and make you happy. They'll make you happier.
It's not their responsibility.
It's not their responsibility.
To jump into it. And you talked about Miami 305. I just had a thought.
What do you got?
I just had a thought because when it comes to like looking at whether right people exist for you in the city that you live in or not, that goes for any city, any place, any country, It's interesting because we look at like, okay, does this place have, the things that I want or the person that I want.
Yeah.
But then we start to like maybe get disappointed when we meet a few people and they're shallow or they're, not, or they, whatever. So it's almost like, do you want to be part of the solution or part of the problem? Be the change you would like to see in the world.
And if you keep attracting these types of people to you, obviously you're putting out something into the world, or you're just choosing wrong.
Yeah. It's like, don't worry about it. When people say, oh, well, Miami, I'm not worried about it. Why are you worried about it?
Right.
If you want better people to date in Miami, why don't you be one of them?
Yes, and there's, especially if you're in a big city, like, listen, I get there are struggles in each city, like we talked about earlier, but like, there's so many people. You don't think there's one person out of millions of people who you're gonna resonate with, you're gonna be attracted to, and you can have a good relationship with? It's actually impossible that that's the case.
Right.
It's actually like impossible.
Right. And if you raise your own frequency, you collectively improve the planet's frequency.
Yeah, yeah.
There was a study done by Dr. David Hawkins.
Okay.
He's the famous author of Power versus Force and Letting Go, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in that calibration of human consciousness, there were different levels to it, and level anything that's above 200, it starts to show that the person is living in a life-enhancing, phase of life, right? Meaning that their choices that they're making, how they show up in the world, starts to be in the higher vibration.
Mm-hmm.
But anything below 200 is actually where 80% of the world's population vibrates
I was just looking at this chart like the other night.
You were?
Yes.
Okay, so you know that.
Yeah.
So if it's like 80% of the world's population, so then they go on to say that level 500 is the level of love. Mm-hmm. And love is not like your Hallmark love, it's actually the being of love. One person on this planet, right, vibrating at level 500 counterbalances 750,000 people.
Yes, that's nuts.
Isn't that something?
It's crazy.
Like 750,000. So when people say, be that one out of the 750.
Yeah.
Because you know what? Single, married, that doesn't matter. You get to improve and enhance your own life experiences and the world.
Based on what you're talking about, I'm sure, are you a fan of Dr. Joe Dispenza?
Yes, of course.
Right. So it's like I was like binge watching some of his YouTube videos last night, but it's the practice of changing your thoughts.
Yeah.
Because like your thoughts create your personality creates your personal reality. So, and your thoughts are feeding that emotional loop and how you're feeling every day, and then you're getting addicted to these emotions of being negative, and it's like you have to start changing that. Yeah. You have to, and it's very hard. It's very hard to change. I mean, it's simple to change if you just hear that and like, okay, I just got to change my thoughts. But it's kind of difficult to put into practice every day to do. And I mean, there's happiness just of your life in general, but then there's, if you want to look at it dating specifically, it's like thinking optimistically, but you have to consciously change the thoughts that you're having. You need to change what you're consuming online. Okay, you want to talk about dating. See, this is where I'm gonna rant a little bit. When it comes to, like I said earlier, like what's some bad dating advice? I think there are bad dating voices in the space who, when you watch, and I don't get how you guys don't notice this, when you see their videos, what energy are you getting through the screen? Are you getting, ooh, I'm getting angry, or like, yeah, like men suck, or are you getting like, oh, like I feel there's possibility,
love needs hope,
love,
I'm
laughing, like light energy. Oh, that's funny. Oh, that person's so funny. Or am I getting like, yeah, let's all get negative together and talk about how things are bad.
I refuse to be part of the noise.
100%. So it's like, and these people have thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of followers. And the reason why is because, like you said, 80% of the population is in that headspace of the...
It gives them views.
Yes. No, but they're naturally drawn to that because that's where their energy is.
Yes.
So it's like, you need to realize that, like, this is bad. This is not helpful. I'm not saying these people don't give helpful advice. I'm sure they do. But, like, it's through the lens of pessimism.
Absolutely.
And looking at
blame, pointing fingers.
Looking at what's wrong rather than, like, because when you're in that low vibration, you actually can't even resonate with higher vibrational things. That's why happy content online, self-help content online, that won't get a tenth of the views as something toxic does. Right. Everyone's got a platform. Everybody has an opinion, and that's fine. Like I think a lot of people have probably good perspectives of dating and your own perspective, but I just think people need to be a lot more cautious about what they're consuming, especially when it comes to like life advice or dating advice, because it's going to completely warp your perspective.
Yes.
And that's
what creates, this whole concept of identity crisis.
Yeah.
People associating who they are to their profession or relationship.
Right.
So they break up and they feel handicapped, you know?
Yeah.
And they just have to, and then they go, well, I lost my identity in this relationship. It's not the relationship. It's somewhere along the way you attached yourself and you became that person, not to blame, you don't want to blame yourself, but just identify for what it is. And you don't need to necessarily call it a crisis. Yeah. It could be an opportunity for a rebirth. Rebirth.
Rebirth. Yeah, right.
So.
Yeah, no, this is great. I love this conversation. Like this? I didn't realize we were going to get into this kind of stuff. This is awesome. What time are we at, Chris?
We're about let's run through a handful.
Yeah, let's do some questions. Let's see if we have the same perspective.
It's a good segue of what you guys were just talking about.
Yeah, this is great.
Cool.
All right, so first question. We just started dating 3 months ago. Now long distance might be on the horizon. Help.
Ooh, how do you feel about long distance dating in general?
So I like to think of it from the perspective of who are the people involved, right? Long distance cannot be generalized for everybody.
Totally.
Right? You have to assess who you are individually and then together.
Can you do that? Can this dynamic work?
Right. And really what is the bond that's been established already?
Right.
So then you add distance to it, right? Yep. Is there understanding? Is there effort? Is there intentionality behind it? Mm-hmm. It's not a cookie cutter, one size fits all or doesn't fit all.
Sure. So I think where maybe this could work is that it seems like they met in a close proximity relationship, and now maybe the guy needs to go somewhere for work, like he has to move. At least they've had a bond in person for 3 months, but 3 months is still I guess honeymoon phase. So they're probably just really learning about each other now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessarily they can see, they don't have to break up just because
they should see, right?
Continue, but see how you engage with each other when distance is part of the story.
What's your communication like?
Exactly.
Just generally speaking, through the phone on a day-to-day basis, mm-hmm. and does that one of the things I talk to people about all the time is communication compatibility. Yes. Do you both use your phone? Because we all have these phones every day, right? Mm. Do you both use your phones the same way, or are you both able to find the sweet spot where you both are comfortable with how the communication through the phone goes?
So I have something to add to that.
What do you got?
So when you add long distance to it, we have to make sure, so whoever asked this question, make sure you have to introduce a lot of forgiveness and a lot of flexibility into the equation. Because yes, we all have our phones, but let's say your partner who had a change of job, a change of role, a responsibility. They may not be as frequently available to you on the phone. But if you're sitting there staring at your phone because it's now he always responded or she always responded. Sure. Now it's been longer. Oh, here we go. Long distance, blah, blah, blah. Because we immediately go to the most obvious to blame, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. But it might be that you need to exercise more forgiveness and frequent check-ins, of course, with your partner. But then don't be so quick to be disappointed.
Yeah, true. Because now you're essentially, the dynamic you had is not going to be this new dynamic. Yeah. So you have to figure out, will this work for you? So it might not.
It might not.
And you have to be okay with it.
But don't be quick to judge it for what you think is the reason.
Agreed. So see it through and have a lot of communication about expectations and how you're feeling, and make sure you're just being transparent about that stuff. But you just got to kind of play it out and see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. What do you got?
Can being too independent intimidate and turn off a man?
This comes up all the time.
My answer?
You go ahead and I'll give.
My answer is yes. I don't think as a woman, don't drive home the fact that I'm so independent. I'm so independent. I'm so independent. It's I don't want you to. I want you. A man needs to feel. First of all, I'm sure you know this as well. Like, a man wants to be with a woman that makes him feel like the man, who's inspiring his masculinity, and masculinity is, generally speaking, it's sort of like there's varying degrees of it, the provider, protector, feeling like I need someone to take care of. Really, if that's the type of guy that you want, right? But if you're going, I'm Miss Hyper Independent, know what you're gonna get? You're either gonna get an equally hyper independent guy, and that might feel like a cold relationship, or you're gonna get a guy who now you're the man. So I think it's great that you're independent, and men love women who have a passion and things that they love to do, and she's happy and fulfilled in her life. Like, that's great. Men don't want like a super needy woman either. So it's like, it's this fine line, but and we're talking about the energy frequency. What is the energy frequency that you're putting out? Is it, I'm independent because I have a wall up and I don't want you to get into my field? Or are you like, I love my life, I have all this stuff, amazing stuff going on, I'm so fun, and I love my friends and my job and whatever, and you can feel that she's independent.
Absolutely.
Not you verbalizing to me that I'm independent, because that's a defense mechanism.
Absolutely. This is what I was about to say. Like, I don't understand and I get it, again, from the evolution perspective and historically, but how did this all start? And it needs to end, right?
It needs to
We
end.
can't be having women walking around, or men, or,
Sure.
oh, I'm alpha, or I'm independent, I'm this, I'm hyper this. Now it's hyper alpha. I found the comedian, this comedian's like, how many cold plunges does it take to become a hyper alpha now? And it's like, what are we doing? I don't want to hear you're alpha, I'm beta, you're independent, I'm hyper. Just be who you are, have this light, hopeful, inviting, welcoming energy about you, and you can still exercise your independence, and then it will be celebrated rather than this, like, guard, like, oh, I'm independent. I've heard women on podcasts say, I am so independent, it's going to require triple independent guy to, what are we doing?
I don't want it.
No, I don't want it either.
I'm good, don't need it.
I don't want, like, can we just not announce what we are and just be about it?
Yes, don't talk about it, be about it.
Okay, high five.
That was great.
Yeah.
See, I knew we were gonna agree on that one. Cool.
Yeah.
Let's do like one more here.
Perfect.
Haven't had a boyfriend in 4 years. Should I lie when they ask when my last relationship was?
Oh.
That was a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, I'll go about it. All right. First of all, that's another thing, part of the narrative change, okay? I know that conversations come up where people are like, tell me about your past relationship. How long have you been single? I just don't even think you get to know much about that person when whether they've been because if you say I'm 4 years, then it's like, oh, it's been quite a while. Why is that? Then you have to defend yourself, right? But always start from the present, especially when it's new, right? Be in the present. Like, I'm here now. I'm interested in meeting new people. It's kind of like irrelevant, and you can redirect kindly and softly, redirect where the attention flows.
It's about how you, it's about how you respond. How do you tell the story of your life?
How do you tell your story, right? And it doesn't mean that you're dodging that question because you're ashamed or you're, this and that, but you can very cleverly, redirect it to bring it back into the present. I was at dinner and there was a blind date happening next to me at the table, so I couldn't help to eavesdrop. But Niko, the entire conversation was about their past.
Yeah, it's like,
it was about, tell me about your past. What didn't you learn about your past? How long have you been single? Why have you? Why did you divorce? I'm like, you guys didn't. You're here now.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think it's important to learn about, like, when was the last relationship and, like, how did it end? I think that's important. I think that's, generally speaking, kind of important, because especially for a woman, like.
But if it's been a while.
If it's been a while, then it doesn't matter as much. If it was within a year or two, it's more relevant.
Right.
If it was like 4 years ago, it's not really that relevant anymore, because you're a totally different person than you were 4 years ago.
Right.
But it's just like, how do you tell the story of the last 4 years, as far as, like, just what journey have you been on?
But yeah, like, you could talk about, like, but it's not, I've seen people get real uncomfortable and then they have to justify and they make up stuff, and it's like, okay, now you're trying to, like,
then you're hiding the story of you. You have to, and I work with women who maybe have, like, something, like a troubling past, like some family dynamic or something that was like trauma, and I'm like, if you're gonna talk about it, say it in learn how to tell that story in the most uplifting way. Like, here's where I am right now, and this, I learned so much along this way, and it doesn't define me.
I just don't think,
But like, if you're gonna talk about it, you gotta own it.
Own it.
You can't like tiptoe around something. Like, if that's a story of you and it's part of your story, like, you kind of have to be okay with it, because eventually this person's gonna learn that.
Sure. I just don't think it should be a first date conversation where people have to, because you got to start from the present and see how information flows, so then it's authentic. It's not forced.
I think that's also key too. Sometimes you're on a first date with somebody and naturally there's a comfort where you do kind of get into some deep conversations on a first date. And I think that's great. Maybe sometimes it'll take 2 or 3 dates to get there.
Yes.
But it's just feeling out the flow of the conversation.
And just because you're timid at the first dates, sometimes people misjudge the first date. Oh, we were kind of timid and information didn't flow, but then they end up like getting married and having the best, you know.
It's true.
It doesn't always need to be like you want to tell your entire life story on the first date.
Well,
you know?
are you consciously thinking of like, I need to ask these questions or tell it, or are you allowing the flow to dictate the conversation? I think that's the difference. It's like, I need to, and I'll tell people like, okay, generally speaking, within a few dates, you want to learn about relationship with family, relationship with friends. You kind of want to know about a past relationship.
Yeah.
You want to know, well, if a woman's talking about a guy, what's his passion and purpose in life, and what's his vision for the future. So within 2 or 3 dates, you want to touch on all those things.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, here, think about it, now put it in the back of the mind.
Put it in the back.
And then just keep it in mind as you're talking. And if it flows naturally, it flows naturally. And if you're not getting into, say you've been on 3 dates and you haven't talked about anything deep at all, then I think that's like, someone is purposely not bringing that kind of stuff up. And like, then you're not making a real, you're making a surface level connection.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that?
Yeah,
Do you agree with that?
of course. I just think, you know, if this individual is concerned that, you know, it doesn't look good, you know, to say that I've been single for so long, you know, take the power back, bring it into the present. Yeah, be in the present and say, I'm here now. I'm excited to get to know you, you know, and then see if information flows. Then you can answer the question.
Yeah, I agree. Wow, this is amazing. This is such a fun conversation. I think I have the same, with very similar headspaces as far as how we're looking at not just dating, but life. Happiness, being the best version of yourself, and being able to attract what's meant for you. I talk about it all the time. You heard it here. I'm inspired. Thanks for joining us. This is a blast. We'll see you next time, everybody.
See ya.